Welcome back to the Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard, Managing Director and founder of The Sales Doctor. And I know some of you might think that I'm selling sales training, but I'm actually going to have this episode talking about why sales training isn't enough. I don't think that's that controversial, but often I'm brought in with an expectation of solving a company's issues just through sales training. And let me tell you that if you're an organisation looking at your sales team this year, this episode is for you. It is absolutely for you. If you're a sales leader of any description, whether that be a sales director or a regional manager or even a team leader of salespeople, this episode is for you, because a lot of money can be spent on sales training, and hey, you can spend that with me, but I want that investment that you make with anyone who delivers sales training to be a lasting one that continues to deliver value to your business. Because if a sales trainer is worth anything, they'll ask you these questions and walk you through these points. The first one is context. What do I mean by context? Well, let's unpack that for a minute. What I mean by context is, what sort of stage is the business at? Because sales training for a growing business is going to look very different to a business that's perhaps plateauing, or it's a mature business, or a business that's in decline. Very different sales strategies need to be employed. So any sales trainer worth their salt is going to be understanding, what sort of stage the business is at, and then asking about the team. How long has the team been here? How are they performing? Who's your best performer? And what are they doing differently to the mediocre performers and to the poor performers? When you find those poor performers, how are they held to account? What's going on with the leadership? When was the last time the sales leaders had any kind of professional development? What do they do every week with their sales teams in order to drive better performance? And I can guarantee you, before we even go any further, if there's an issue with sales results, it will come back to whether or not the big rocks are in place from a sales management perspective. And that is, am I having regular team meetings? Now, if I've got BDMs or people responsible for new business, am I having regular sales pipeline meetings that are actually constructive and enabled in terms of their focus? Or if I'm having them at all, am I using them as a weapon to make people feel miserable about Monday mornings? Because that's often how sales pipeline meetings are conducted. That's the first thing. Are they doing their one-on-ones effectively? And are they doing in-field coaching? So I'd be looking at all of that. What's the landscape there? So the stage of the business, what's happening with sales team members, how long have they been there, who's performing well, who's not, what's happening with the sales leadership. And then I'd be asking wider questions. So I'd be asking things like, what's the competitive landscape? What are your competitors doing really well? What do they do better than you? And what do you do better than them? How well equipped is your sales team to be able to talk to your customers about those things? How are they about making sure that the competitors don't get any kind of ear space with your customers? The other thing is too, what's happening in the lives of the customers? Do we understand the challenges that the company's customers are facing, so that we can understand then, how that might be affecting their buyer behaviour? What else is going on in the business from a marketing perspective, a customer service perspective, a finance perspective, an IT perspective? Is the company looking to grow in the next few years? Has there been a change at the top? What's the ELT culture like? And by ELT, I mean the executive leadership team culture. You might go, well, what's that got to do with sales training? Well, it's got everything to do with sales training. Let me tell you, if an ELT doesn't actually support or value sales training or professional development for salespeople because they go, well, they're just going to leave. Just going to leave, and we're going to spend all this money on these salespeople and then they're just going to leave, then any kind of sales training actually doesn't have that fertile ground on which to really develop great people with any kind of longevity beyond maybe, just a rah-rah workshop. One of the things I say to my clients or my prospects is, I'm not there for entertainment. I'm there to help you improve your overall revenue and profit. That's what I'm there to help you improve. So we need to understand the context, and it really, looks at all of those things. But we also need to understand the things that are going on inside the business. We need to understand the market that they're operating in and any kind of government policies that are affecting the way that they do business. They might be restricting them, but also are they government policies that can enable them? The second thing is, do the surrounding processes support and embed the gains made by training? So it's like having a bucket, and you would have heard this analogy 1,000 times, but I'm going to say it again because it's really important that we think about this. Sales is not a funnel, it's actually a bucket, and we should actually be growing the size of the bucket, which is our capacity to take on board more and more revenue and profit as we go as a company. Now, revenue comes in the top of that bucket, but if there are leaks, they're going to come not just from sales, they'll come from other areas of the business. Let me tell you that a lot of those leaks happen in finance. Now, an example of that will be a customer that's been hard fought for and hard won by the sales team, then having to set up an account with your organisation, and your finance team treats them like, well, they act like they're a bank, and they make them jump through a million hoops, and they make them feel terrible, like they're going for a credit application, which in some cases I understand that you need to protect yourselves, but do you need to do it at the expense of the experience to the customer, or is there a better way to make sure that you're protected and that the customer feels great having another fantastic experience with your organisation? Now, let's just say a customer's just been brought on board, had a fantastic experience with the sales team or salesperson. They come on board and finance really makes them feel terrible. And that's just the start of the relationship. Now, it might not break the relationship there, but there's already a chink in the armour. And then all you need are some more chinks in that armour, and I'll talk about those in a minute. And before you know it, there's doubt in the customer's mind, and it makes them vulnerable to your competitors. And who are you going to blame? You're not going to blame finance, you're going to blame sales. And it's got nothing to do with them. It's out of their hands. And it can be very frustrating from a sales perspective. So all the sales training in the world isn't going to improve what finance does because they're not doing the training. Okay? So there's other areas in the business too. So, for example, let's just say you have a goods and service business that delivers goods. You might even use a third-party provider to distribute and deliver those goods. Now, from the customer's perspective, if those goods that they've ordered are lost, late, damaged, whatever, or incorrect, let's just say. I mean, they're 4 things that can go wrong. Now, some of those things might have nothing to do with your organisation. It might be them, might be on them. But that's the lasting impression that your customer has of you. They don't think, oh, that's a logistics company, that's just a courier. They go, your company lost my product. Your company mucked up my order. And who's going to pay for that? It'll be customer service. Or if that customer has a great relationship with sales, they'll get straight on the phone and they'll tell their salesperson who has all the empathy and sympathy in the world for the customer goes into bat for them, and they're told, well, you own the relationship, deal with it. Okay, it isn't fair. It's a setup. So we need to look more broadly across our business to see where those leaks might occur. The other aspect that will determine whether sales training is going to be have lasting benefit for the organisation is looking at what else is in place to support new salespeople. So what I mean by that is we can train people how to sell, but have we also onboarded them really well? Have we set them up to succeed? Do they understand the purpose of their job? I sat down with some new sales leaders yesterday in one of my client businesses, and I said to them that whenever you're in doubt about someone's performance, the first question I want you to ask them is, what's the purpose of your job? And if they can't answer what that actually is without reading something or saying what their job actually is there to do, they don't understand. And I know that sounds like, well, duh, how can someone not understand what their job is? They understand what their job is broadly. So if I'm in sales, for example, I'm there to deliver a target. Okay. And do I know how I'm going to go about doing that? What does a week look like for me? What should a day look like for me if I'm doing my job well? That's where the proof is. So are we setting our new salespeople up to succeed? What else is in place? Have we got some in-field support from a leader who knows how to effectively coach? Do we model excellence as sales leaders? Am I setting a new person up with a really star performer who's going to model excellence for them so that they can see what good looks like? Not just hear what good looks like or what we expect, but see it in action and see the response from the customer so that they understand what they're there to do. We also need to understand what's keeping the team sharp, because sales training is a little bit like going to the gym. If we went to the gym once in 1995 and we haven't been since, we can say, yeah, I went to the gym once and it was great. I know everything that there is to know about fitness. Well, you might know some things, but we might look at you and not necessarily see a specimen of human fitness and health. We need to keep things up. We need to maintain that level of fitness because we change, our bodies change, our lifestyles change, conditions change, and we need to make sure that our training is in line with those changes. And it is exactly the same with sales training. Now, unless you can afford to keep a sales trainer on board in-house 24/7 or 9 to 5 days a week, whatever your business is open, it gets really expensive, right? And the idea with sales training is that it empowers the people within the organisation to keep their people sharp. So how are you investing in ongoing sales coaching for your leaders so that they can coach people and keep them sharp and keep them sales fit every single day? Most people don't. They don't see that as the role of a sales leader, and it absolutely is. So there's no good in having someone come in and do training 1 year or even 1 day, 1 afternoon, 1 month, 1 time for 1 hour. Some people, think that a speaking gig of mine is going to change the world. It's not. It's going to make people feel nice. I'm not going to knock it back. It's a great introduction to how I work. Get to know me a little bit. It's great. But is it going to change anything? No, it isn't, because it needs to land somewhere for an organisation, and then they need to be able to pick it up and run with it, reinforce it, build it, change it, sharpen their people on a day-to-day basis. And we need to also make sure that if we've got all of this training in place, that the rest of the business has the capacity to harness and maximize the benefits that are going to come from that better training. So, for example, if I'm teaching people how to sell more, and then all of a sudden revenue goes up, demand goes up, but the underlying systems that a business has to fulfill those orders and to distribute those products and get them to the customers in a timely manner to fulfill expectations, if they're not in order, it's actually going to be worse for your customers in terms of their experience, and it's also going to diminish the belief of the salespeople because they sell on their own belief about your ability to deliver. Let me tell you that. And if that goes, revenue will follow. So, sales training isn't enough. It's a fantastic opportunity for you and for your team, but there need to be other things in place. Now, if the sales trainers that you're speaking with are telling you that things are going to change because they're in there for an afternoon, they're in there for a year, and they're not talking to you about that more holistic view of the business, you might want to think again. That is all I'm saying. Hope I'm giving the heads up to my competitors here. Not that you'll be listening to me anyway. I hope. I've just given away some trade secrets, haven't I? But that's okay. It's all in the spirit of great sales training, right? Okay, guys, I'll see you soon. Have a good day. Okay, you've been listening to The Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard. And to find out how the Sales Doctor can help your organisation to transform its revenue, growth and profit, please email me at ingrid@thesalesdoctor.com.au. Visit us on our website at www.thesalesdoctor.com.au. I look forward to your company next episode. Bye for now.